every vice president, understands that when they take the oath, that they must be very clear about the responsibility they may have to take over the job of being president. I am no different.
The 2024 Republican presidential primary field is taking shape.
The battle lines are becoming clearer, and so is the field of candidates.
Is the odds-on favorites, if you look at the polling, still Trump versus Biden?
That seems to be it, but it's just way too early to tell.
I'm more angry now, and I'm more committed now than I ever was.
Big challenge for these candidates is going to be how do they navigate Donald Trump? And how do they navigate Ron DeSantis?
You and I have a rendezvous with destiny.
Welcome back to the Ruthless Friday program. That was your Vice President, Kamala Harris, stunningly suggesting that she is perhaps up for the job of President of the United States. Before we get into that, we should note, obviously, that we have someone sitting here in place of Smug who's still out on sabbatical?
Sabbatical.
We call it sabbatical?
He's finding himself.
Yeah.
But
He's
this is
things through.
Yeah. This is a real step up.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I think the last time you were here, we referred to it as like the Wally Pipp, Lou Gehrig situation, which I don't know. Like, it's gone another week. You never know.
I think it's like Tom Brady stepping in for Drew Bledsoe.
Oh,
yeah.
Well,
what I think.
That's perhaps
it's career defining.
I have a long career ahead of me.
Mary Katharine Ham, welcome.
Thank you so much. Has anyone ever seen Smug and me in the same room before? Both from North Carolina.
Great question.
Both very into barbecue and Bojangles.
Yes. Yes.
I don't know. I'm just saying.
Unless you're like a 6'5" Indian, though, I feel like there's something that's.
Oh, there is one difference. Yes,
there's maybe one difference.
I can be whatever I want to be.
Yeah, that's exactly what she identifies today. Well, listen, thank you for coming in. We really appreciate it. Loved having you out in Milwaukee. We were sorry that we couldn't get you on set. Turns out we were trying to juggle just our own performance.
You know, it's not a problem. I was a looming presence.
You were.
You know, much like Trump for the actual debate. I was a looming presence. I was in the background drinking my beers, like trying to get in the live shot. And you know what I did that you guys don't know about is that I just went to the spin room after the pregame.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And just trashed all of you guys.
Nice.
Oh, good.
Yeah, that's what I did.
Good.
I love that.
It probably didn't take a lot of convincing.
No, that was a very ambitious show. And that sounds like I'm undercutting you guys. Like, oh, you tried. Yeah. That's not what I mean. It was very ambitious and it was very cool and it worked.
It was fun to do.
I enjoyed it.
Well, it was also extremely hot, as you remember.
Woo.
And we were completely, we were drenched in sweat trying to muscle through. And then all of a sudden MK walks out. And I'm sure every one of you guys had the same reaction I did. She walks out and I was just like, she had the tank top.
Yeah.
Ruthless. We were just like, let's go.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Pure energy.
You know what? There is the downside, though, is if I had gotten on stage and you guys were like, bring up MK, and everybody's like, oh,
no,
that's not Megyn Kelly.
Nobody would have done that.
She is very brunette.
But you have a nice selection of tank tops, and today you're wearing a professional number.
I am. Well, actually, I was wearing a professional tank top until I came in here and realized that the background is black and I was going to look like Max Headroom. Yeah. And so that's an old reference. I'm an old person. Instead, I'm glad you brought it up, Josh.
Okay.
I'm wearing my Travis Manion Foundation shirt.
Oh.
Well, you need to tell the audience about this because it's a really important project.
Well, I'm working on a little something, and by that I mean a lot of people are working really hard on something, and I'm mentioning it on a podcast.
Yeah.
The 9/11 Heroes runs,
yeah,
which are a time to remember what happened on 9/11 and the 9/11 generation who served after that, and to get out in your communities and meet first responders and military and make those connections and get associated with just some really cool people who, yes, will make you run and lift weights sometimes, but they're really awesome. Go to 911heroesrun.com to sign up for those. They're all over the country. I think we have like 60 or 60 plus. And join us for that, if you will. It's a 5K.
Such a great
We're not
cause.
asking that much.
Yeah.
Well, it
and you get a
depends on
cool
who you're
tank
asking.
top. I mean, look at that. Actually, I cut the sleeves off of mine because I'm trash, but this is you get a t-shirt.
I love it. I mean, you're such a good person.
Aww.
Doesn't it just annoy everybody around you that you're like, oh, and I've got another charitable work that I'm on.
I am on the board of directors of the Travis Manion Foundation, but again, mostly I mention things on podcasts, so I don't know that I'm carrying that much weight, but I will be out there running in Oakton, Virginia, if you want to join us.
I do.
They're all over the country.
I think that the entire Ruthless podcast should join you. And what I would like to see is Comfortably Smug run 5K without stopping.
In a full LL Bean.
With a cigarette hanging out of his mouth.
Yeah.
Cigarette. Oh, that would be. You know what? I would do it just for that, but it's never going to happen. We will support the cause, obviously, which is a very, very good one. You're also, I'd be remiss if I didn't also mention getting hammered.
Yes. You guys get hammered every show, but I also do a show called Getting Hammered, so you can find it wherever you find your podcasts.
It's a great
and I think
show.
You'll enjoy.
It's a great show. Everybody's going to enjoy it. You should download it immediately. I want to welcome our sponsor for today's program, Masterworks. You'll hear a little bit more from them.
We've got major cities in a doom loop, and even Wall Street is trimming the fat to save their bacon. But not every investment is floundering right now. One of our longtime partners is actually thriving. That's right, because Masterworks now has 13 sales to date. That's 5 more sales just since we talked about them in December. And like before, every single sale to date has handed back a positive net return to investors. That includes recent net returns of 10, 13, and even 35%. As of 6/19, Masterworks has over 740,000 users and over $750 million invested. Masterworks has so much demand that paintings can sell out in minutes. As a result, they have a wait list. But because we're longtime partners, you're getting special access. So go to masterworks.com and use promo code Ruthless. That's promo code Ruthless at masterworks.com to join today. See important Regulation A disclosures at masterworks.com/CD. This is not investment advice.
Do we need to get into like the finer tune pieces of the Kamala Harris bit? Because like surely she knows the obvious, that everybody is sort of circling around. Like I think 2/3 of America doesn't believe that Joe Biden's going to be on the ticket.
Right.
In 2024.
And you've noticed the PR from her team in that story we did, I think last week on the Gavin Newsom stuff, where it was, Gavin's starting to irritate some of the people in the West Wing.
Yeah, they're like specifically the Kamala Harris crowd.
Clearly pitched by her office. Mm-hmm. And so she's feeling, I think, a little insecure, a little self-conscious of her position in the administration. And so you're seeing that here. But I can't help but like watch that and think of that meme of the guy in the suit coming from behind the tree and rubbing his hands, like waiting for his moment.
The yellow suit?
Yeah, the yellow suit.
Yeah,
you know what I'm talking about.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I like that this is such a classic Kamala pitch, which is in that quote, the qualifications to be vice president or to be vice president or president are that you can read the oath.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's all she puts out there. Like, I think if you read and understand it, then obviously we're there.
She broke news on her literacy, as far as I'm concerned.
I took it as a terrifying reminder that she actually is second in line. And it's the last thing that Joe Biden needs out there. I mean, he's already struggling to put 2 sentences together. He's running against, who knows who the Republican opponent is going to be. But the absolute worst thing that Democrats have going for them is not a president who can't give a speech. It's his number 2 who can't even come close to doing the job.
Well, and nobody has confidence. I mean, her approval rating is like 32%.
It's like having a bad starting pitcher and then knowing what's in the bullpen. Tough deal.
It's a tough deal.
Real tough deal.
But, this is not an uncommon thing. I mean, look, when Ronald Reagan was president, there was a lot of questions about, who would run the country if this older, he was the oldest at the time, newly sworn in for a second term. But then you had George H.W. Bush, who was like, you guys got the resume, I'm not that concerned. Feels like he could do the job.
Yeah.
And this comes up from time to time. Clearly it's going to come up in the context of Joe Biden, and you look down the row and the dugout doesn't look great.
Mm-hmm.
But
she's truly untalented.
I mean,
truly unskilled.
And Dan Quayle misspelled potato. She messes up every single day. And look how the media treats her versus how they treated him. It was a national story for months. It's the only thing people remember about Dan Quayle. But for her, she messes up every single day. and like she doesn't get the stories.
I do love the faux sort of like concern that she's got there. She's like, well, as you know, every vice president. Oh, thanks for the news, sweetheart. Like, we got it. Yeah. We got it. I mean, everything that she does has got this veneer of melodrama to it that I just don't understand. I don't know. Maybe it's like if you were to take politics by an acting coach or something like that.
Well, like Obama had a way of just describing the question he was being asked and the facts of the situation as he saw them.
Like that's an answer. Yeah.
In a very professorial and actually smart sounding way. It was sort of graceful. Hers is like not professorial. It's like a substitute elementary school teacher. Sorry, guys. Now I took a shot at y'all. You guys do great work. I just mean like, it's like she's communicating with children.
Yeah.
It's not like she's communicating with adults.
Which is one of our funniest Kamala moments is when she actually was communicating with children about space.
She can't even do that.
They were paid actors.
And they were paid, and it turns out they were paid actors, and everybody was like, even those paid actors couldn't keep it together.
Yeah.
They were like,
can't even get them excited. They're getting a paycheck.
All right, so we got a couple of things in the works here. The first thing, piece of housekeeping is, should we do a debate party?
Yes.
Why is this even a question?
I mean, I guess we should, right? Because we're not going to California. We did the Milwaukee thing. We're not going to go to California for the second debate. We've been in discussions about what may happen thereafter, and we may have news on that at some point. But for the second debate, we look like we have free date on the calendar.
Yeah, I mean, it's coming up in a couple of weeks, and it's been a while since we've done a DC show, and so stay tuned. I think there might be something in the works. Many people are saying.
All right, well, if you're into that, let us know, because that may sway the balance of what it is that we end up doing.
If it's a budget issue, I will buy another tank top.
At least cut off the sleeves of a shirt if necessary.
Mary Katharine's $24 are going in the pot.
Yeah, there we go.
And $50 to party with Mary Katharine in her tank top. So there it is. Okay, so the other thing that we want to tie up loose ends on is our ongoing Slack controversy.
Right.
I have met your demands.
Yeah.
And I have changed my profile. Thanks to the very good work of Kevin Pinball on Twitter. For those of you who follow, you know who this guy is. Very funny, does great stuff on the internet. But he provided me an image there that I've been using now as my Slack. There it is.
Yeah, there's your avatar.
Yeah.
That's a real handsome bit of work.
Is that one of the rhesus macaques?
That's a macaque.
Yeah, monkey.
In my hand.
In SFW.
Yes.
Right.
Well, look, I appreciate the olive branch, but I also what?
No. You're going to add to this?
No,
I thought you'd be satisfied.
I appreciate the olive branch. I'm glad to be able to also declare victory.
Oh, that's what's happening here?
Yeah.
Oh, I see how it is.
It's an acknowledgement.
I do something nice.
That I was correct.
I do something nice, and you got to rub it in my face.
Yeah.
This is how this company works, ladies and gentlemen. You can't give an inch. I mean, Trump is right about this.
Yes.
Stuff.
Yeah.
This is incredible.
Yeah.
Ashbrook, you have nothing to add on this?
No, I'm happy IT is satisfied. And once IT is satisfied, we're able to move on with our day.
All right.
I get it.
Just log in, disable both of your profiles right now.
I feel like Slack signed me out in like 2016, and I've never been able to get back in, so I have a grudge. I get it.
You know what? Michael can help you with that.
If you call the helpline, it goes a direct dial.
Yes.
He's got you.
So it turns out I can mute him in the channel. I can change all your profile things if I want. I can change your profile pic. I think I'm going to set it to the Indianapolis Colts.
Okay.
Oh, very much admin vibes.
I actually root for the Indianapolis Colts, despite this guy's
No, you don't.
I do. I want him to win. They're from the Midwest.
Bullshit. I don't believe you for a second.
NK, are you a football fan?
Oh, am I a football fan?
I mean, you're a big football fan.
Put this on
right?
over my...
Oh, yeah, you're Bulldog. Yeah. Yeah.
I believe you mean the back-to-back national champions.
Yes,
the Georgia
exactly
Bulldogs.
right.
Now, I sort of fell off on the NFL, partly because I'm a Lions fan.
Yeah, but they're back in action.
I know, but it's hard to watch in this area. And it's hard to watch in general, usually.
Right.
But I do enjoy the NFL because I get to watch the dogs play everywhere, including all of y'all's teams, I believe. I mean, it ain't like Philly with the whole defensive line, but
they're giving 40 against Ball State this. I mean, do we like that cover, fellas? I don't know.
I do. I think the dogs are going to win it again. I just got to be honest. I think, I mean, after what we saw at the end of the national championship game last year, all of their backups looked better than the starters on TCU. And I mean, how are they going to lose?
Yeah.
They also have one of the easiest schedules.
How about them?
They have one of the easiest schedules.
Yeah, the SEC is known for easy schedules.
No, I mean, it's...
No, I would say I looked at the schedule in total the other day and was like, oh, that doesn't feel like normal, right? Because, sometimes we'll open against Oregon, open against Clemson.
Yeah.
And
Not this time around.
This time I'm feeling a little more relaxed for a while.
They can build their way through. Now, when you go down to Georgia, you're like a field pass gal, I bet.
Oh, no, I'm not that important.
I mean, I bet they red carpet that thing for you.
No, but I did make it on the Jumbotron once.
Did you?
Yes.
Okay.
As a quote-unquote UGA legend.
Oh, really?
Oh, wow.
Alongside such people as Ryan Seacrest.
Wow.
And Herschel Walker.
I mean, he's one of the hardest working men in show business.
Seriously?
It's true. Someday I'll get there.
Wow.
Yeah, but I never saw it because I didn't make it to any of those games that year.
So you didn't.
I never saw it in person. Someone snapped a picture on their 2009 phone for
as
me.
a legend.
Yeah.
Gosh,
wow.
That's something.
Yeah.
Boy, we can all strive for that.
Yeah.
Speaking of striving for some sort of approval, that's what we do here on the Variety program with our 5-star segment, and we always start out with a voice.
Okay, this first one comes from Kempman0404, speaking of Georgia, and the title is Own the Libs. I'm a public school teacher and have been listening and now watching for a couple of years. Love the show. Great blend of humor and insights. I always look forward to the games. Merch side note. I gifted my husband the tasteful flag Ruthless cap.
Oh,
He was recently wearing it in the Denver airport and received several thumbs up. And someone told him, quote, own the libs.
Yes.
Nice.
Keep up the good work.
It's spreading. It's spreading, folks. I love it. All right, Duncan, what do we got?
This one's from Kiki235267. A great program. I found the show, like so many others, through MK.
The other MK.
Is that tough?
Not this one.
Well, maybe. I don't know. They didn't specify.
I'm honored to share these initials with her.
It has quickly become one of my favorites. I love the fellas have a more lighthearted take on politics. Some shows just take themselves so seriously it gets depressing. Oh, we know. And being a Republican in California is depressing enough. I thought of the fellas as I drove to work the other day when I saw a Riven truck with a license plate holder that said Carroll Shelby Motors. Nothing like the full throttle roar of a Riven. Typical California. Thanks for the great shows. Keep it up.
That's a great line.
I love just feel the horsepower.
Oh, that's so good.
Four-wheel drive golf cart.
Yeah.
This next one, Jamexicans. Latest is the greatest. Just listen to you in your latest episode, and you guys just keep getting better. Your interview with Kurt Schlichter was my favorite. Oh, that's great. I'm going to check out his works thanks to you guys. And thanks to Megyn Kelly. They actually were specific that time.
They didn't want anybody getting confused.
For introducing me to Ruthless. I never missed a podcast or a live show now. You guys are the best. Keep up the great work. Can't wait till Tuesday for your next show. That's fantastic. I love it. You guys are the best. Keep those things coming in.
Yeah, you can do them on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or anywhere else. We love reading them. Mary Katharine comes on the show and she talks about great charities and things you should be involved in. We like talking about ourselves.
That's right. And that's, it is the greatest charitable act that we have is the discussion of our own.
The greatest love of all.
Yeah.
That's so good. It's totally true. All right. So the way that we get into this typically on a Thursday is to discuss the presidential primary and who won the week. And we all have different takes on this typically, and we usually start at the end of the row there. Smash, do you have a thought here?
You know, this was a tough week coming off of last week.
Yeah, it's kind of a lower key week.
Yeah, it really was in Republican presidential politics. A lot of stories about Trump, a lot of stories about Ronnie D. But this week, I think I'm going to take Nikki Haley once again, because Nikki has continued to build on her exquisite performance at the Republican debate, and she is hitting multiple states. She's hitting multiple events, and she's building on this in a way that you should as a candidate. And I think, you got to tip the cap to her consultant, Betsy Ankney, who we all know is very, very capable. And so this week I take Nikki Haley.
Yeah, that our entire team, really. I mean, they do have a seriously seasoned group of people.
They really do.
Duncan?
I mean, he took mine.
Oh, really? We were
Steeler.
gonna go. Well, yeah. I mean, you can give your own justification.
I think the justification is really simple. I think if you look at any of the polling since Ron DeSantis has gotten to this race, I think there's sort of a miscalculation from his team on where he had room to grow in the Republican primary electorate. And, there's been a little bit of attrition, but mostly held serve with the most conservative or MAGA adjacent part of the Republican primary debate.
Mm-hmm.
But he has bled out
the center right.
Yeah, independent leading Republicans or moderate Republicans.
And that's all the crew. If you've listened to their podcast, we've talked about this incessantly.
Yeah.
That he basically had a codlock on anybody who was ready for some kind of a change. That's everybody from people who absolutely love Donald Trump but think somebody can take America first to the next level, to the center-right primary voter who just doesn't like Donald Trump and wants something different.
Yeah.
He had all that in January and February.
And that's where he's lost.
And it's
been to Nikki's benefit. I mean, if you any of the recent polls, you see that the growth for her has come in that subset of the electorate, and for that reason, she's my winner of the week, too.
Well-reasoned. MK?
All right. I'm going to really punditize this one.
Oh, good.
Nice.
Say a bunch of things I actually want to say before I get to my answer.
Yeah.
No, I will say this. I'm going to get a little bitchy.
Yes.
I think the winner of the week should be like a governor who competently runs the response to a Category 3 hurricane and makes sure that pets can evacuate and makes sure that power's back on and that bridges are built, and gives me a small glimmer of hope that government can actually do the basic functions of government.
Yeah.
It's nice to think about.
Or the winner could be someone who capitalizes on a competent and a little bit sparkling debate performance by serving the voters and going out and talking to them. But alas, the winner of the week is Trump, because of that Tide poll from the Wall Street Journal.
Yeah.
And he is at such an advantage numerically at this point that if you get any of those data points for Trump voters, why are they leaving?
Yeah.
Why are they leaving? And with an asterisk for Nikki Haley, who I think has pumped up her criticisms of Trump in the past couple of weeks, no one's really prosecuting the case.
Right.
That I'm better than this guy. This guy's bad news for a lot of reasons. And for that reason, people look at that tie and they go, well, why would I step off this train?
Yeah, it's what we've said all along. It's like you're never going to get a Trump voter to vote not Trump,
right,
unless you can make a case that you can do what it is that they care about better than Trump. And thus far, that has been a lacking part of the argument.
Right.
I mean, you had Ramaswamy up on the debate stage saying, I think he's the greatest president we've had in my lifetime. And it's like, well,
also vote for me.
Yeah,
Right.
what are you doing? What are you doing here? I can't believe nobody said that, by the way.
Yeah.
That went unchallenged.
Yeah. Well, they were challenging so much of what he said. You know, at least he got that one.
You got that one in edgewise.
Yeah.
But well done. I mean, look, I think that's right. I think there's an awful lot, if you're in Trump camp, that you're like, look, I've got a live jury meeting on TV in Georgia, and you're all consolidating around me in the process. That feels like a win.
Well, in the last time you came on this show, I think exactly what I said was, you cannot beat Donald Trump unless you're willing to say, I'm a winner and he's a loser.
Yeah.
Because if you don't acknowledge that, the other stuff doesn't matter because you're already saying things are unfair to Donald Trump and it's the weaponization of the DOJ and all that sort of stuff. And there's plenty of good arguments for that line of logic. But if you aren't able to talk about the albatross, this millstone around Donald Trump's neck, and the CNN polling that came out recently proves that out, and I'm sure we'll talk about it in more detail at some point here in the show. But if you can't talk about those things and say, oh, and by the way, I won Florida by 20 points and he lost, then why are they ever going to abandon Donald Trump?
Right. You got to make that case.
Because they've also seen him win, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And I think you can make the point that this is unfair to Donald Trump and he's been railroaded in 1,000 ways, right? And also, he can't fix it because he didn't fix it.
Yeah.
I'd like to hear somebody talk about that.
Well, that's the thing that confounds me the most about the Trump argument is that somehow he's convinced voters that he is the sole person who is able to fix the deep state and the two systems of justice and all of those things, except there's not a walking human being alive in this country or any other who has been more crushed by the deep state, by two systems of justice than Donald Trump has. Now, you could say it's because he's the greatest threat, and that may very well be true, except for the fact it didn't happen. Right? You have 4 years now, 5, 6 years, where he is always in a problem as it relates to this crew. Now, we've had, believe it or not, we have had Republican presidents before. They have existed. And not all of them have found themselves in this situation. Now, you can disagree with, whether they did what you wanted to do overall. But, I mean, just the fact that he is a Republican, yes, it does mean that there is a permanent political class that is entirely against you, and you'd have to know that and fight through it. But having a game plan and actually doing it is part of being a Republican president. And I think he's got a uniquely weak argument when it comes to that.
Would you like to get more depressed?
Sure.
Okay. Well, I think in our political culture in the year of our Lord 2023, the electorate's entirely animated by negative partisanship on both sides. And so the logic of that argument doesn't matter because he's being attacked the most means he's the best suited to fight it.
Yeah, I mean,
it's as simple as that. Let me put a finer point on it because there's talk in the House of maybe impeaching Joe Biden, or at least starting down the pathway to that. Proceedings, like an inquiry.
Yep.
And if that gives them the power to go and get this stuff they haven't been able to get, I'm all for it, 100%. But I have to tell you, brass tacks politics, I bet you Joe Biden's numbers go up initially.
100%.
For
sure. Look, we've done this. How many times do we need to do this?
Right.
It happened for Trump. It happened for Bill Clinton, for crying out loud.
It happens the same. What I'm saying is the same negative partisanship on the other side. And if you look at all these polls where Donald Trump's up 2 points on Joe Biden, if you go into the crosstabs of any of those polls, where is Joe Biden underperforming young voters and minority voters? And I got to tell you, I don't see anything in Donald Trump's pitch that is going to capture those voters' imagination that he didn't do well with in 2020. But those people are going to get re-engaged off the sidelines and be like, I'll support Joe Biden now because of that negative partisanship that we see in our politics.
Yeah, and I think we all know that one of the ways, if you want to know what Democrats are thinking, just read a major newspaper, because everything that Democrats are thinking and want to be written is written out in black and white in all of the major newspapers. And Democrats see Donald Trump as their only hope to get a geriatric candidate across the finish line. Once again, who doesn't campaign, probably doesn't debate, doesn't deliver an actual speech. They think that Trump is the only opponent they can beat. And so I think that's pretty instructive.
That's the thing that I don't understand about the conversation that we've been having, because if you look at some of those poll numbers, Republicans believe that Donald Trump is the best, most formidable Republican candidate. Now, you look back to 2016 and you can say, yep, he certainly was in that moment in time. He beat the entire Republican establishment, but he lost in 2018, 20, and 22. And you get into 2024 and the numbers, they look exactly the same as they have for the last 6 years. Very, very lean with independents. No real crossover in your suburban electorate that has typically been very strong for Republicans. And your base support is pretty much defined.
But in all of these general election polls, Donald Trump is outperforming Ron DeSantis by 3 points, 2 points, 4 points. And so I think as long as that is the brass tacks of it, like that is reality.
But I think that's incumbent upon us, like on this show, is to explain why.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and it's incumbent upon those running against him to force the argument that there needs to be a different path. If they're not willing to muscle that argument through and make people believe it,
then what are we all doing here?
Yes.
So it's so funny. It's so funny that you mentioned this because we've always, our previous life of political consultants, we view things differently than an awful lot of political consultants. Our view of success was always how far do you move an argument, not whether you can find an argument that polls 55 or above and attach yourself to it. So, like, that's the one thing that I think is missing from an awful lot of these campaigns is your metric for success is pick a theory of the case that you think gets you to victory lane and make that argument exclusively till you're blue in the face until you start moving numbers on it. It's not to just go find, it's like, oh, yeah, no, well, 65% of Americans think you ought to build the wall. Now we want to build the wall. Of course. Like, so does 10 other candidates in the race. Like, that's not the issue. It's not like affixing yourself to every popular issue. It's can you drive an argument to a point where people are saying, well, maybe he's got something. Maybe he's right that there is an electability issue here. Because I can tell you, if anybody who's done this for a living, you look at those numbers, electability is all you should be talking about. There isn't a dime's worth of difference in policy from a vast majority of these folks. It's whether you can get to victory.
It's your only competitive advantage. I feel like I could say this till I'm blue in the face, but you're running against a guy who had the job. Like, you're running against a guy who was president. And I feel like in this conversation, people, for whatever reason, just sort of forget that part of it. And they're like, no, I would do it better. And it's like, people don't care because he had the job. Right. Like, he won. And so you got to make the argument.
And also, they like the job that he did.
Right. Yeah, he cut taxes. Right. There were all these judges. Like, people are very happy with. They're very satisfied.
Right. So you can't just be like, well, I might do it a little better. Like, that's not going to work.
But to your point, like, the key question is, can he get there again?
Right.
And the polls that you cited suggest that he can.
Yeah.
The Democrats, if you listen to what they say, suggest that they believe he cannot.
Of course. I only say that to say, like, taking off the consultant hat and putting on the voter hat. They're looking at polls and they're seeing, like, Donald Trump beating Joe Biden.
Yeah.
Like, so I understand that part of it.
Biden could really use two things right now: consolidation and excitement for him, which impeachment would bring, at least in some degree, and a weakened and unpopular opponent. And I'm just saying we should think real hard about whether we want to give him those things.
That's the thing that I just don't I mean, look, Nancy Pelosi made this mistake too. And the first impeachment of Donald Trump was a tragic political mistake. And if not for COVID, put him in a place where he was unbeatable. I mean, I don't know if you guys remember the February 2020 timeframe. Just as he beats that impeachment inquiry, his numbers jump by 10 points. He has full consolidation of a Republican base. He looks untouchable in that circumstance, kind of like Bill Clinton looked after the impeachment stuff in the 90s. And it seems to me like if your goal is to actually remove him from office, that's one thing. You also have to look across the aisle and understand that there are Senate Democrats who would vote for their own, like, children to be shipped off in a barge to a deserted island before they would vote to impeach a Democratic president.
Yeah.
So that like the obvious nature of that should be clear to everyone. The guy's not going to get impeached. That is very clear. If it's to provide information that there's no other way of getting out there because you have a complicit corporate media and everything else, I think that's another question.
I mean, not to mention that, there was a fake special counsel who's now a special counsel who was saying that he might not have the power, but maybe he had the power, and Merrick Garland saying he always had the power. Like, I get it. Like, I get House Republicans being like, no, you know what? I think we're going to go ahead and take the keys from you.
Yeah. But aren't they doing a whale of a job already?
I do think they're doing a whale of a job. And here's where I might disagree. And I don't know, I'd be interested in your opinion on this. But, like, I totally am with you on this phenomenon in politics that if you face down a charge and you beat the charge, you're that much stronger because of it. We've seen so many examples of that through history. However, if Jamie Comer's committee uncovers the new bank records between Hunter Biden and Joe Biden, these are the records that we have not seen yet. If they uncover evidence of moving of money between Hunter Biden and Joe Biden, I really don't know how what's impeachment for?
I think that's a different deal. I think that's a different deal. You're right.
It sort of puts them in but they have to do it at that point. And I think it's an open question about whether they're actually going to get that. I mean, there's a lot of debate about whether this new special counsel is actually an effort to block their ability to see into those accounts and provide transparency for what was actually going on between Ukraine and Hunter and Joe and where's the money flowing. But I mean, if all of that comes to light, which I think it probably exists, if all that comes to light, I don't know how you don't impeach.
You have a thought on that?
No, I agree. And I do think I've been applauding Johnson and Grassley all the way for breaking this stuff when the media decides not to. So I very much appreciate that. And I just say run with that ball as long as you can before you get to this other part.
I think that's right.
Okay, you got to give us your winner of the week, though. You never...
Yeah, well, am I correct in my understanding that Francis Suarez has dropped out?
Yes.
He's my winner of the
week. I actually love this curveball.
He gets to hang out in Miami now.
Clever. I think at some point it becomes incumbent upon people not to pull the Kasich routine, where you are constantly feeding a consultant's bank account because you can just keep going, that you've got enough in the way of revenue into the campaign that you're basically able to sustain a campaign despite the fact that it has absolutely zero chance of coming within even the top 5, right?
Yeah.
And so this is a decision that I think a lot of people are going to need to take a hard look at before we get to Iowa. Because the simple fact is, if you're gobbling up 3 to 5% anywhere, that's 3 to 5% that is made for a competitive race somewhere else with some other campaign that can provide momentum somewhere else. You know you're not going to get there. And this isn't a vanity deal. This is the future of your country that we're talking about. And it's not some consultant's bank account that needs to talk about, well, I think we can raise another $1 million this month and keep our bills paid. Yeah, of course, there's a monetary incentive for people to keep telling, like there was in the Kasich circumstance. That's not what this is. Like, this is a very serious election for Republicans. You can't lose this.
Who was Kasich's consultant there? Was it John Weaver?
It was the Weaver Man Shanty.
The Lincoln Project guy.
The Weaver Man Shanty.
I'm shocked that didn't work out.
Yeah. Can you believe maybe he didn't have our best interests?
It's possible. Many people are saying.
The tensions were focused elsewhere.
His DMs, it turns out.
Perhaps a new sort of enrichment program for young conservatives.
Interns. A word of encouragement. A word of encouragement for those who might decide to drop out before Iowa is that Kamala Harris did, and she's the vice president. So you got to believe.
Yeah.
Gotta believe.
So great.
I love that.
Oh, it's so true. All right, so that's that. But to, I think, underscore the point that we've all just made, Axios printed this this week with these are your choices. President Biden and former President Trump have identical ratings in the new Wall Street Journal poll. 39% of registered voters view them favorably, while 58% view them unfavorably. Many analysts, according to Axios, believed so many voters had turned against Trump that it would be difficult for him to win a general election, but the Wall Street Journal poll finds 49% view Biden very unfavorably, just behind Trump's 52. Okay. Look, the numbers are the numbers. Very unfavorably at half the country and more than half for Trump. Like, is this really where we're going? We have 330 million Americans, and we have people who, like, people literally loathe setting up the next presidential election. Like, that's a depressing deal.
We need an animation. 2024. The race to the bottom.
But I mean, look, that's what 2016 was, and that worked out for Trump. Yep. You know, like when you were in a
but was it? I mean, look, people didn't.
No, dude.
People didn't like
Hillary Clinton couldn't go to Wisconsin. She literally couldn't go because if she showed up in the state or ran an ad, her numbers went down. That's how loathed she was.
But Trump was an unknown. People cast a lot of their hopes and dreams on somebody who they thought was an outsider.
Look, I understand. what I'm getting to on the 16 thing is like with the presidential campaign, it is definitely the one race where you could see a situation where turnout is depressed and there's more third-party candidates that independent voters actually go and vote for rather than, punching a ticket for another major party candidate, and you figure out a way that Donald Trump can, draw an inside royal flush again. I mean, like,
but that's the play.
I don't say I like the play.
I want to win on the flop.
No, not
like that's what we're dealing with.
I think that'd probably be winning on the river. That'd be winning on the river. But
that's literally. I mean,
fact check.
Look, okay.
Yeah, fact check.
Yeah,
sorry.
exactly.
Fact check. Thank you.
Thank you.
Taking umbrage at your description.
Pretty good poker player.
terms.
Yeah, as it turns out. But I mean, that's where we're at. That's where we're at. I guess that's where they're at too.
That's where they're at too. This is this game of Mexican standoff where 23% of the electorate wants these two guys to be the major party candidates, and that's what we're going to do because apparently democracy is that now. I don't know what to tell you. I'm just telling you reality, pal.
I don't understand, like, how you as an American can look at with disfavor either of these two candidates, and the Venn diagram of people who hate both is massive.
Huge.
Massive, right?
Yes.
How is it that you then cannot participate in the primary process?
I just think people are disillusioned with politics. It's for the same reason why there's a majority of Republican primary voters right now who are like, I'm going to stick with that guy with all the indictments, right? Like, I mean, what does it say about us? Like, let's have a little bit of introspection ourselves as people who work in politics.
No,
like,
it's true.
Look, I want to look at a lot of these voters and be like, what are you doing? But what does it say about the rest of our politics that they see the rest of our politics and they're like, this is worse than that? I mean,
it just seems to me like we've got to figure something out. Like,
I don't know what we're going to figure out.
Well, I will tell you this, for what it's worth. Two of my longtime buddies independently texted me this week. These are two guys who would probably tell a pollster that they support Trump. I mean, and they've been with Trump since the beginning. Independently texted me in the last 2 weeks, and they were like, man, I like Trump, but I'm just not sure he can win a general. I also really like Ron DeSantis. Both of them separately. They don't even know each other. So I think there's if I'm getting that from my friends, I'm sure other people are getting that from their friends. I think there's more of that out there. And if you talk to the Trump team, they will tell you that the polling looks great. We're very strong right now, but it doesn't last forever. They're going to run advertising against us.
That's the smartest
Iowa.
thing they're doing is running scared the whole way.
Well,
I agree.
And I also think an inevitability run is fragile. It is a Jenga tower, and if you pull out, if one crack starts showing, then that starts some sort of mixed metaphor that I can't think of right now.
It's not.
It can collapse.
It's like Rocky IV. Right. When he lands a punch on Ivan Drago, and he's like, he bleeds. He's not a machine. He's a man.
That was on the tip of my tongue.
Reason why. There's a reason why the Donald Trump campaign that's up 30 points, and believes this primary is over, is calling on people to drop out and give all their money to Donald Trump. Yeah. It's not because they think the primary is over.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, you wouldn't make that
like
call.
If it's just over, then start running Joe Biden ads. Why aren't you doing that? Oh, well, because you can't, because 75% of every dollar that comes into your bank account has to be spent on a lawyer.
Yeah.
Which means he isn't as invincible as he would like you to believe.
Can I tell you the one thing that Trump has going for him here, and this is in the Wall Street Journal poll? 51% of voters believe that Trump has a quote-unquote strong record of accomplishment as president, compared to 40% who say the same as Biden.
Yeah.
And he's living off of that because...
Over 50 on that is impressive.
A very impressive number. Like, I don't know that... I mean, I don't have any way of comparing it, but like Barack Obama, is he over 50? Like, maybe not. I know George W. Bush isn't, and Bill Clinton probably isn't at this point. Like, that's a big number.
It is.
It's a big number.
I mean, the problem, the flip side there, and just looking into my crystal ball of what the next 9 months look like, is if you read that recent CNN poll that also came out on, how dominant Donald Trump is in this primary, and a large majority of Republican primary voters indicate that if he's convicted of one of these indictments, that it wouldn't impact whether he had the fitness for the job, or whatever the framing of the question was. And I sent a tweet about this the other night. But then you look into the crosstabs on how that does with independent voters. A lot of independent voters who like his record as president. These are Republican-leaning independent voters. And you look at if he's convicted on the Georgia case or convicted on the
documents case.
The Jan 6 case.
Oh, the Jan 6 case. Okay.
Independent voters, like over 50%, would say that he was disqualified by being convicted in one of those cases. 43% think he'd be disqualified if he's convicted on the docs case. So, look, I don't know if he's going to be convicted on any of these. I think the docs one is probably the greatest legal peril that Donald Trump is in. But if you lose 43%, including 28% of the GOP leaning independents, that's the ball game. That's over. It doesn't matter how much they agree with what he did as president. If they think he's disqualified, in their own words, should he be disqualified? Yes, that's it. That's the ball game.
It is. I will say this. Knowing and sort of traversing the world of consultancy, which you take for what you will, it's not the most popular profession in the world. If Nikki Haley or even Ron DeSantis were the Republican nominee, Democrats would shit a solid gold brick.
Mm-hmm. Then they might impeach Biden.
That's
the way out.
Let it happen.
That's the way out.
I think they would do a Torricelli deal on that.
Yeah.
I'm referring to the New Jersey senator who was convicted on crimes and managed to find his way off a ballot in October of 2002 in favor of a former senator and then new Senator Frank Lautenberg. They just changed the names on the ballot and went forward.
They
managed to
fix the glitch.
They fixed the glitch.
Yeah.
But my guess is they'd be fixing glitches.
Yeah.
If there was anything other than the current situation that they have now. All right. So this is a bad news story for DeSantis. We've seen this work through a little bit, but it's a little bit more pointed. This is from Politico. Former Illinois Governor Bruce Rauner was among Ron DeSantis' biggest boosters during his 2022 midterm, giving nearly $1 million to his reelection bid. But as he has surveyed the field of GOP candidates for president, Rauner, a wealthy former private equity executive who was DeSantis' 15th biggest donor last year, has not given any more money to the Florida governor. Rauner told Politico he thinks another candidate, Nikki Haley, has a better shot of defeating President Joe Biden than DeSantis. Of the 50 donors who gave at least $160,000 in the years leading up to 2022 re-election, only 16, that's less than 1/3, provided funds to a super PAC Never Back Down, which can receive unlimited contributions through the end of June.
So here's my take on this. I think this says a lot more about Nikki Haley and her team than it does about Ron DeSantis. Because
boy, Betsy's really going to send you a thank you card today.
The truth of the matter is, Rauner has been around for a very long time, and he has seen things come and he's seen things go, and I just I think I'll just leave it at that. I think it says a lot more about Haley's team than it does about DeSantis. There are still a lot of very rich people who like Ronnie D and who are backing Ronnie D. I think that it's really smart of Nikki's team to seize on this opportunity.
I don't want to discount that. I just have to point out that this is the easiest story to get written in Republican politics right now.
Oh, for
Ron
sure.
DeSantis process story. We're going to have another one of these. Reporters love writing this.
This is the biggest problem that the campaign has had thus far. DeSantis has like 3 or 4 really good days in a row. Or last week, an incredible week of handling a hurricane, as you mentioned, MK. And
governing is a really second-tier story. Guys.
I know. It's like, oh, he can do the job well? Never mind. What's his super PAC up to?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Let's get into that.
Yeah. But that's, don't you think, it's been a process story since 3 months before he got into the race.
It has. And also, as we said about Trump earlier, you have to anticipate that this is the media you're going to war with.
Mm-hmm. Right.
You don't get to choose. Mm-hmm. And I think that's something that DeSantis, in his capacity as governor, particularly during COVID, was very good at recognizing. Mm-hmm. He knew exactly what hardballs were coming his way. It makes it a little tricky that this is the super PAC, right?
Yeah.
And the buck still stops with him. But they are separate, right?
They also have a ton of targets on their own back.
True.
I mean, that's the thing. Like, typically you get a super PAC that is operating separately with the name of the candidate on the back of it, and everybody's shooting at them as they shoot at the candidate. This feels different. It feels like you have people who actually even support Ron DeSantis as shooting at the super PAC.
I mean, look, the only antidote for this sort of media is winning,
That's right.
Good news.
That's right.
Right? Like, you got to stop the attrition in the polling. You got to spend some money away in Iowa or South Carolina. I know they're spending in South Carolina now as well, the DeSantis campaign. Until those poll numbers change, you can't. It's harder to swat this stuff down and say this is noise.
Well, it's impossible to swat this stuff down, Michael, because here's the thing. We talk about this ad nauseum on the program. If you want to know what Democrats want, if you want to know what Democrats are thinking, open a newspaper. They will tell you because they're writing the stories.
Yeah.
And so anytime you read a story in one of these, you should just read it as an interpretation of this is exactly what Democrats would send out in a press release if they actually had to send a press release and didn't just have it laundered through the media.
It's like Ron.
Such a great gig.
Ron Klain's got
It
the
is.
pen, right? I mean, it's basically it.
Easiest
DeSantis
job.
in disarray.
Yeah.
Great headline. Stop the presses. Let's lead it.
Let's throw it out there. You guys want some animal news?
Absolutely.
I feel like we need to break up all this seriousness with some animal news. This is according to the New York Post. A three-legged bear named Tripod
Oh, boy.
breaks into a Florida home and guzzles 3 White Claws.
It's a bit on the nose. White claws for a bear. I mean, come on. They were at a Bear Claws?
I've heard of the nickname Tripod.
Yeah. Come on. Don't go there.
Well, I'm just saying I have to see video evidence. Do we have video evidence of this particular bear? There it is.
Oh, man.
It does turn. It turns out it does just have 3 legs.
Oh my god.
Jeez.
Well, you can't. You got to be sure.
Yeah.
We're journalists.
Yeah.
Holy god.
Just wandering around this guy's house.
I mean, how do you operate a door with only one front paw?
God. Oh, look, he just opened the door. He's about to take the beer. He just about to take the beer.
Okay.
Oh.
All right. Clearly, Tripod. I don't know how he lost his leg, but he's a beer fan, or he's at least a claw fan who likes the seltzers.
Look, bless his heart. He's putting in work. He's opening the door. He might have been using the actual tab. I don't know. He seems very skilled.
Yeah.
I was thinking this is like Cocaine Bear, but instead of killing and maiming a bunch of people brutally, he's just taking off his top and sleeping with an ex.
Yeah.
But you never know when you run into one of those people who could take a leg from you.
Yeah.
You know?
Tripod's always down for a day party and some country music.
So he drank the White Claws. He hung out. This was in basically just outside of Orlando. The bears we've been following for years, and Hank the bear has been controlling many of these and such incidences. But this seems to me like, I mean, if we've got the animals coming in and drinking our beers, where do we draw the line?
Well, here's the thing. We've been following these through the news. MK has had a face-to-face encounter.
You know, Hank sent somebody, even though he's on the inside now.
Oh, you got a hitman.
Yeah,
he sent someone after me. Yeah.
So what was the situation? Where were you?
Well, I was hiking in the Smoky Mountains, guys.
Oh,
As like
boy.
a good American, I took my children to Dollywood before school started.
Nice.
And we did a hike, and my children started complaining about 10 minutes into the hike. And I was going to make it a 20-minute hike, but when they started complaining, I was like, we're going 2.6 miles up a mountain.
Oh,
And,
nice. You want to work it out of them.
You can't give in.
No, at that point, you're going to.
So we go through the fire. So we go up the mountain, and about a mile and a half in, my friend who's with me and her kids in front of me stops, and I see her gesturing. And I look up, and sure enough, there's a black bear emerging from the woods.
Whoa.
Maybe 8 to 10 yards in front of me.
Oh, my God,
I would
that
say.
close?
It was
Holy
close. I'm
smokes.
estimating. I have a picture. It's very dramatic. It's not that dramatic because actually I'm not millennial enough to pull out my phone while he's very visible. I waited till he was sort of gone. Anyway. But I did what I should do. which is I put the appetizers, and by that I mean the children in front of me.
Oh, nice.
You can see it in the picture. They're just like, I'm just putting them out there. And no, in reality, I just didn't want to panic them. So I was like, just stay where you are. Everything's fine.
I'm putting them out there.
And he hung around for a minute, looked at us, sat down, ate some food, not us, not any of the children, and then moved along with his day. And I think it was an attempt to keep me from being at the Milwaukee Ruthless live show.
Wow.
But I was undaunted. So I made it, and I passed through. He thought I was too dangerous.
Yeah, no, he didn't want to tangle with you. He knew.
He knows I listened to Christie's strategies for fighting bears, and you guys.
Yeah. We try to provide guidance on this sort of thing. But it turns out whatever strategy you had, it worked.
Did you try to make yourself big?
No, I just stood still and acted very confident so that the children did not get scared.
You didn't shout? You didn't throw rocks?
This
or
is
anything?
fine.
Yeah? Wow.
This is fine.
That thing takes one step towards you, though. What are you doing?
Well, I did have a plan for getting in front of the children should the bear signal that he was coming our way. I was like, well, I'll take one for the team. But until then, they're up front.
Yeah.
You were going to actually take on the bear. It should be noted for the children in future years that you were prepared.
Should it come to that. I was proud of my friend and me because apparently we were so chill that the kids were completely unfazed. So they'll be ready to fight all sorts of bears. They seemed a little too unfazed.
Did they actually see, did they know?
Oh, yes.
So they observed the danger.
It was very clear that he was crossing.
But they were like, Mom's not freaking out?
He's a black bear. He's not as aggressive as a grizzly bear. If it had been a grizzly bear, I would have been much more scared.
I'm not sure you'd be sitting here with a grizzly bear.
You don't think I can look hard enough for a grizzly bear?
What professional tank top did you have? Did you have the Ruthless variety program?
That is a good question. I might have.
If you did.
We'll have to check the pic.
Well, now, you know what? Now I think we know why that bear turned and ran.
You know what? I think we have an idea.
Yeah. Yeah, he heard about the monkeys in the monkey pool and all the rest and didn't want a part of it. Before we get to their next story, have you guys heard this? So there's an escaped prisoner in Pennsylvania.
No.
So there's a maximum security prison that is 3 miles away from where my mother-in-law lives in the suburbs of Philadelphia, Chester County area. And it's basically to hold, it's not like your hardened criminals, but they have hardened criminals in there before they transfer after conviction to real serious stuff. A guy escaped there, this Danilo Souza Cavalcante.
Okay, I thought you were going to say Jalen Carter.
Yeah, it was definitely not Jalen Carter. So this is an individual, he's like a young guy who's from Brazil, who was wanted for murder in Brazil, came to the United States, of course, all murderers.
Right, let him right in.
Yeah. So come on in, enjoy your time here. It turns out he murdered his girlfriend in the process.
Wow, I'm shocked.
So, but he got the long arm of the law on that when they found him and tried him and convicted him and put him in this prison. Well, he escaped. He escaped this prison. And immediately it's like prison escape, it's this kind of it looks rural, but it's not rural. It's close to suburban area, but it's horse farms and stuff like that. And but it's it's the kind of community you want to live in. It's not like you're in the middle of nowhere.
And he wants to live there too.
So
and who are we to say that is bad?
Right. So last Thursday, this dude gets out, and so they immediately they're looking for him or whatever. Well, they find 3 or 4 times over the weekend he shows up on people's ring cams, just walking around within a mile of this prison. Literally within a mile. So it's 4 days out and the dude hasn't made it a mile down the road, but he's just haunting the neighborhood.
Well, I thought we had bloodhounds for this.
This is what I'm talking about. Something's going on.
The animals have abandoned us.
Something is happening.
That's what's going on.
There's this great...
We talked too much junk and now the dogs won't search.
There's this great park and these gardens and stuff, and he's on the ring cams. He's broken in.
Picnicking. He's got a blanket out.
He's gone in. He went into one person's house, and the person heard him in the house and flicked their lights on and off, and he flicked them back from the basement on and off, and then he grabbed some apples and bananas and packed his backpack and strolled slowly out the front door.
Has this guy not seen Shawshank Redemption, learned anything?
Like,
from
you got to
Andy
go to the
Dufresne?
beach.
You got to go to Fort Hancock, Texas. There's one
something
place
underneath the tree. It's under a rock that doesn't look like it has any business being in Fort Hancock,
I think he
Texas.
knows that a true crime podcast is his greatest shot for eternal fame.
Oh, you think he'll do his own podcast?
He's just out there making it known that he's on adventures. And if any middle-aged white lady would like to start a podcast about that, they can. I'm actually thinking about it.
It would be so, Mr. Cavalcante, if you're interested. So, but here's what got me, right? So, it's not enough that it's been 6 days and he's no more than a mile from the prison, and somehow they can't run this guy down. Like, do we not have helicopters with like heat-seeking shit anymore?
Yeah, I thought we did.
I thought we did, but this should concern everyone. This is like not a possibility because he's like really roaming around. Anyway, they go to the description of this dude.
Mm-hmm.
He's 5 feet tall, 120 pounds.
Wow.
This cat isn't going to fit in anywhere. A 5-footer, 5 foot. I mean, El Pequeño, right? I mean, we're talking about an extraordinarily small individual.
Yeah.
I could never fight in that weight class, just to be clear. Couldn't get to it.
I can understand how he escaped from the prison. Did he just slide right through the bars?
He got under his bed. Nobody knew he was there. They opened the gate, and there he goes. I mean, seriously, though, 5 feet tall, if that dude shows up anywhere in the light of day, you're like, well, that's him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, unless you're here for the carnival, like, that's it.
He's sticking out like a sore thumb.
Again, I don't want to denigrate anyone who's working on this, but I am here for the basic functions of government functioning. And it does seem like this guy, we could nail him.
It seems like this is not the hardest person. I mean, look, he can get into tight spaces, no question about that. So maybe that's a net advantage. And there's plenty of places to roam around, but like, in 6 days, he hasn't gotten more than 1.5 miles from the prison.
Where is one of those Chinese spy balloons when you need it?
Yeah, right.
Let's get the Chinese on this.
But is this really the best we can do?
It's crazy.
It's wild.
That's crazy.
I mean, my mother-in-law is telling me that the community is basically terrorized. They've shut schools down this entire week.
Well, there's a lot of guns in Pennsylvania. I know that.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's like if this guy shows up and like somebody's just waiting.
Yeah, he flicks on the wrong lights, he's going to get some hot lead.
Don't you think this is one of those things that Duncan, we've talked about before, because Duncan's like a very heavily armed and well-prepared individual where he's always like in the recesses of his mind. It's like, if somebody tried to break into his house, he's like, oh, hell yes.
That light flicking, I do not like it.
Yeah.
I do not like it, and I think that response would be correct.
Yeah.
Well,
just start firing.
If
brazen.
If he was smart, he'd head for Penn National or maybe Harrah's racetrack, and he could fit right in with the rest of the jockeys.
The jockeys.
Yeah.
That is something I hadn't thought of.
Yeah, I think that's probably what he should do.
So Penn National, yeah. Yeah, if you can't get out of town, that's probably the place to go.
With him not out of town, by the way, this is a screw loose situation in a
Right.
real way. Like, there's no self-preservation here.
A mile and a half?
Makes it a little scarier.
But I think he also probably recognizes what you pointed out there. He sticks out like a sore thumb. Like, you can't just go to the side of the road and be like, hey, pick up this hitchhiker. Like, everybody's going to be looking for this guy. You know?
So he's like, I'm going to hang out in Longwood Gardens for the next 30 years?
Look, he doesn't have a lot of body mass. He doesn't need a high caloric intake to survive.
All right, so you want to hear about the latest Biden catastrophe?
Absolutely.
So he was blasted for walking out before the end of a Medal of Honor ceremony. This is according to the New York Post. President Biden was accused of being disrespectful after he quickly exited the East Room of the White House before the conclusion of the Medal of Honor ceremony honoring a Vietnam War veteran on Tuesday. Biden, 80, abruptly left the ceremony after fastening the nation's highest military decoration around the neck of Army Captain Larry Taylor, 81, before closing benediction was read by the chaplain. I mean, what do we think about that?
I can't even make jokes, man.
I mean,
Look, this is not a perception problem. It's not the appearance of disrespect. It is disrespectful.
Actual disrespect.
It is disrespectful. He beelines it out of this room.
Mm-hmm.
There is an actual hero of his own generation
Right.
who fought in a war that Biden did not, correct?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
And how many Medal of Honor recipients do you have per presidency? Maybe a handful. People from the Vietnam era didn't get a ton that weren't posthumous. So you have this rare opportunity to give a medal to a man who risked his life many times over to save his fellow men in arms.
Yeah.
And you're just like, I'm done before the prayer.
Yeah.
What?
I mean, it's unbelievable. It's a very special event, and most Americans would give anything just to go and just honor this person who gave so much so that they can actually go and watch.
I mean,
Joe Biden walks out at the end. I can't believe it.
But for even just basic events at the White House, you've seen these photos where they zoom in on the cards he's holding. Like, this guy needs stage direction for very simple things. You know, like, he might have just not known the program.
Do you want to know what the press secretary's excuse was?
Because it's Karine Jean-Pierre.
Did he have to take a big poop? I mean, when you got to go, you got to go. I've seen my four-year-old dead sprint with pants below his ankles, almost fall over himself.
I feel like this is being put on the 4-year-old unfairly. It might be autobiographical.
How dare you?
How dare you?
How dare
you? Her excuse was to minimize contact with the attendees after First Lady Jill Biden tested positive for COVID.
No.
You just stood and put a medal on his neck.
On an 81-year-old man? If your concern was about COVID, you have two 80-year-olds dealing with, like, touching each other. What?
And the media is just like, well, it sounds like a good excuse to me.
Not concerned enough about bestowing a medal with his hands around the neck of an elderly man.
Right.
But very concerned about the contact with the man's family outside of that.
Well, and here's the other thing, is that he repeatedly lies about the death of his son, who served honorably, and I want to honor that, but it is different than being killed in combat, which is what he implies every time he says that Beau Biden died in Iraq. He did not die in Iraq, and Gold Star families are frankly mostly too classy and quiet to say much about this because they don't want to politicize the Gold Star experience, but I'm not too classy, and that is trash, and he shouldn't say it.
I love it. Thank you for mentioning it. I mean, we've brought it up on the program before, but it really needs to be ironed in. I mean, there are several things that this president has done throughout the course of his personal life, and it's less about his political life, to be honest. As objectionable as all of that shit is, his personal life, when you're not recognizing a granddaughter for months for political purposes, and then you are in a situation where you're mischaracterizing the death of your own son to make it sound like he died in combat in Iraq, when in fact that was not the case. Like,
he mischaracterized the death of his wife when he accused the guy who was in the car accident of being a drunk.
Yeah,
wrong.
And said it for like decades, and even when he knew it was wrong, never publicly apologized. This is Grandpa Joe, the guy who everybody says has a heart of gold.
Yeah.
Bad person.
It's
objectively a bad person.
That is bad stuff. You don't do stuff like that.
Yeah.
All right, so I've got one bit of polling here that I want to get to, and this was conducted by McLaughlin and Associates for American Commitment. Am I right about that, Wolf? American Commitment?
Commitment to seniors.
American Commitment to Seniors. I'm glad you corrected me. Thank you. So this outfit they obviously are concerned about senior population because of like AARP and everything else is basically a left-wing organization characterizing what it is that seniors care about. And we have thought, long and hard on this program about how Joe Biden is, sort of emblematic of a senior community and the critiques upon him, like whether or not there's any sort of like circle the wagons around Joe Biden. Well, it turns out that's not the case, and in large part because of some of the policy stuff, which I find fascinating. So this is about the Inflation Reduction Act, and it's so funny to me. They have 80% of seniors view the Inflation Reduction Act as a failure. 80%, guys. Like, is there 80% of anything that people agree on?
Not even
in
puppies.
This country?
Not even puppies.
I mean, there's literally nothing.
No.
So, like, whatever this administration thinks it's gaining by, you know, their mischaracterization of being, you know, sort of like pro-entitlement state, or just the fact that they've got an 80-year-old president, they're losing on just their policy alone, which I find fascinating because, I mean, look, it shows a different level to the electorate in this particular segment that people are paying attention to this kind of shit.
Well, and I also think seniors, perhaps on a fixed income, many of them understand that money is real and you can't just do the Inflation Reduction Act, misnamed,
You can't
and
just
pump $9 trillion into the economy and like everything will be fine. It won't be fine if you look at your grocery bill.
Yeah,
It's not.
my favorite part was like a year later when they came out and they're like, oh, you know what? I think we kind of goofed on the name of that thing. Sorry. You know, we lied to you.
Or Manchin was like, oh man, I can't believe this was Green New Deal light. That's not what I voted for. It's like, you wrote it, dumbass. I mean, the worst. But it turns out nobody's buying it. And if you look through, you know, the one thing that we've been pretty particularly critical, it's a generational critique, as Michael has often pointed out, is that they are very dissatisfied with the idea that any sort of Medicare savings goes to unrelated spending, in this case, Green New Deal light.
Yeah.
And that is something that people have seized upon.
I mean, I can understand that you would think if you're a senior, like, if we're going to save money out of Medicare, like, maybe it should go to, like, saving things like Medicare. I don't know. Crazy.
No, it's going to quell the neuroses of the millennials and Gen Z.
Important.
Yeah.
Hopefully, maybe some student loans, you know.
All right, 2 quick stories we got to get to because these ones are this is where the candy part of the program comes.
Yeah.
This one's brand new to me, so I'm learning as you learn. 70-foot yacht carrying guns, drugs, and prostitutes discovered in Nantucket Harbor.
How about that?
That sounds like a good time.
on the anniversary, or well, not the anniversary, marking Jimmy Buffett's death.
Yeah, well, I mean, are you accusing Jimmy Buffett of...
No, I'm just saying it was a terrible moment. And then here you have this terrible moment happening in New York, Sag Harbor, which is where his home was. And then not far from there is in Nantucket, where you have drugs, prostitutes, and guns.
Oh, you think maybe it was a party to honor him?
I think it could
So
have
it was
been.
maybe a bad thing that's now redeemed by a good thing. Unfortunately, they got caught. And a yacht anchored in Nantucket Harbor was searched Tuesday by authorities, this is according to the New York Post, who found guns, drugs, and prostitutes aboard the lavish vessel, according to a report. The investigation into Jess Khan, a 70-foot motor yacht registered in the Cayman Islands, has so far led to at least one arrest. And the Nantucket Current reported, shocking discovery in the harbor of the ritzy Massachusetts island was made after a woman was removed from the yacht for a wellness check on Tuesday morning, the harbor master said. The harbor master's got a handle on these kind of things, as you guys know. And turns out they had some suspicions.
Yeah,
about the prostitute yacht.
The yacht is registered in the Cayman Islands. It's hanging out up there. There's prostitutes on it. Like, on a serious note, like, I'm gonna go ahead and say there's human trafficking going on here. Like, maybe some of these
think so?
Some of these women are on this boat against their will.
You think that's not in good faith?
Not in good faith.
Interesting.
I don't think it was a happy party.
Oh, interesting.
That's what I'm saying.
You think the authorities are all over that?
I'm just saying a wellness check, like a wellness check.
Well,
on
somebody
this
didn't
woman?
do well, for sure.
Yeah.
Somebody didn't do well.
That's a dark. That's a dark party.
That is a dark party. I didn't take it that way.
Well, you know, look, things happen when you have guns, drugs, and prostitutes on a boat, and you know.
You know, this is in poor taste now that he's taken it to a dark place, but I do think this boat needs a new name.
Oh, boy.
And I believe in liberty, so I would suggest come back with a warrant.
Wow.
But really, if you're involved in all this, the Jess Khan, no, that's not the person's name. That's the yacht's name, apparently.
It's the yacht. Yeah, no, it should be maybe it should just be wellness check.
If you're running aground in Florida and getting arrested in Nantucket, I need a better.
Yeah.
You know what? It's actually a creativity problem.
Yeah.
That's what they're being arrested for here. They were simply offended by the lack of creativity in naming their 70-foot boat.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, if they would have just named it after the walk-off song that we have in all of our live shows, Lawyers, Guns, and Money, they'd have been all set.
Yeah. You need the lawyers.
You need the lawyers.
You're going to have everything else.
The guns and money, in
gotta
this
have
case,
lawyers.
prostitutes and drugs.
But not Donald Trump's lawyers.
Not those ones.
Many people are saying
they're
not the best sometimes.
So they are battle
They sure
tested.
get paid a lot.
Yeah.
They do.
Yes, they sure are. And a statement of the obvious. All right, so this is the last one. And fellas, like, I kind of wish Smug was here for this because I think he'd have a real hot take.
He would.
But it turns out that there's an airline, a Delta flight, an international flight, that was redirected. And the reason it was redirected is because they had a biohazard incident where a Delta passenger couldn't contain their explosive diarrhea. Okay, we've all been on airplanes. This is an international flight that was like an hour in. It was going to Barcelona.
Mm-hmm.
And before it even left the shores of the United States, this thing had to come back to Atlanta and land because somebody shat all over the main cabin.
Yeah, described as a biohazard. It was through the entire aisle. I think, Wolf, we got a clip of that, right?
Oh, my God, we've got a clip.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Oh, no.
No.
No. Wait, did they have their pants off? Holy cats. It's still going?
I think this is a loop.
No.
Oh, my gosh. Kill it.
We're stuck
Kill it.
forever.
No.
No, stop playing
No,
it.
stop. No more. No more. No more.
I think he was trying to torture us with that.
Wait. Oh, I've got so many questions.
All through the aisle. Well, I did a little bit of investigating here because I wanted to know, as one does, because I'm particular about eating before I board airplanes.
Yes.
I'm not a fan of it.
Right.
Michael's particular.
I just in general.
And in this case, I think he's right.
But, especially when you're going to board an international flight, the international terminal for Delta at the Atlanta airport has a restaurant that I think can lead to this sort of thing.
Oh my gosh! So you actually you're gonna make allegations here on the program?
Yeah, Arby's. I think Arby's.
Oh wait, what? Come on!
You're kidding me.
I thought you were gonna say something unique to Atlanta.
No, I think a beef and cheddar. I think that is what did this. You can't just eat one of those and then sit on an airplane. That is dangerous.
That is something far different than we have seen anywhere. That an Arby's cannot possibly.
You really think that's it?
I also thought he was going to go a different direction, and so I'm going to go that direction.
Do it.
There's also a varsity.
Oh.
And let me tell you, I'm not particular about eating before I get on a flight. Stomach of steel. But I want to take partial blame for this because I have tweeted many times and put on Instagram that I am getting a delicious 2 chili dogs, O-rings, and a frosted orange before I get on a flight.
Oh my God.
And it is not for the inexperienced. And I have a feeling someone signed up for something they couldn't handle.
We maybe had a novice here.
Yeah. So I just don't. When I put those up in the future, I will put a warning that you do not just try to bite this off.
Right. This is a
Pun intended.
trained professional.
Yes.
Can I just?
I've lived in Georgia for many years.
Yeah.
I can handle this.
Can I just point out the obvious? What we were looking at on that video was unmitigated poop all over the aisle, stretching many yards.
Yes.
Up and down this particular airplane. One of two things is happening here. Either one, this person literally wasn't wearing pants. Or two, the amount, the sheer volume that we're talking about here had worked its way through the pant prior to them making a run for it to the front of the cabin.
Well, I mean, have you seen some of these Zoomers now? They wear like the really wide jeans. It's basically like clown pants. I mean, that's just a straight shot to the floor.
So you're making an allegation.
You're telling me there was a Jinko funnel.
Yeah, everything comes full circle. Back to the Jinkos.
Wait a second. Is that even possible? So you're saying it's just like a free?
I mean, maybe
a free, like anything that's happening is happening.
It could have been a situation. Okay, again, this is just conjecture, like the beef and cheddar. And I actually really liked the chicken salad sandwich they had at Arby's back in the day.
Throw them a bone, Michael.
But let me tell you, that person, the Arby's, that person wasn't eating the chicken salad sandwich. They were going for the beef and cheddar, which can work its way right through you. But it is possible that this person had one of the most unfortunate things happen to you on an airplane, where you've got a ticking clock and you've got 30 seconds, and they got right to the door, and they
But
had
that's not right to the door. We're talking mid-aisle.
Hold on, let me finish. It's an international flight. There's generally like 3 sections of toilets. That they got to their section, nothing but red lights.
Oh no!
It's full.
Call an audible. Got to run to the back.
And they only had 30 seconds, and they're getting ready to take those pants right down. And then it's like they got to sprint, and somewhere in that cartoonish display outside of that stall, they didn't get the pants back up, and it's like, oops-a-daisy, it's all on the floor. I'm just saying, like, I could picture like a Dumb and Dumber situation here, where there's an
somebody
X-lax
laxative situation.
That it wasn't on purpose, but that, these things happen.
It is possible. What I'm trying to imagine in my head, because surely nobody would do this sort of thing on purpose.
No.
Right? So what I'm
You
trying
just
to...
made me think about that.
Right.
No, surely not.
I don't.
Okay.
Not at the front end of an international trip. Sure, certainly not that. I mean, that's sociopathic beyond like serial killer level. If this person did that and literally shat all the way up the aisle, and they had to turn the flight around to land it at its origin, its point of origin back in Atlanta. So all of the people on this, like I imagine there's hundreds of people on this flight, can't go to Barcelona. They got to go back to Atlanta. The point where they call no joy on the continuing the flight deal, what's that guy doing? What's that guy doing?
I think you got to put him in the jump seat, and you got to close the curtain to hide his shame.
I mean, what is he?
Don't you close him in the bathroom?
Ooh, maybe.
Yeah, but then you might
guess
run the
that's a
risk of
safety
having
issue.
another secondary offense.
Well, at least he'd be in the right location for it.
No, but I mean, could be other passengers. Maybe it's
Yeah.
like an airplane situation
I
where
don't
you've
know.
got multiple things going on.
I think you find him a diaper and you put him in the jump seat where, one of the flight attendants usually sits.
And as soon as you need a diaper, everyone's suddenly happy that there's a baby on the flight.
Yeah. Exactly.
But somebody who listens to this program, he was either on that flight or knows somebody who was on that flight. And I want to know what that eye contact looked like. I want to know when you saw...
It's just the worst.
When you saw the person responsible for the biohazard and you had another hour, 45 minutes to get back to Atlanta, that person was somewhere.
Yeah.
Somebody laid eyes on.
But MK brings up a really important point here. I hear from a lot of people who don't have kids how inconvenient it is that they have to fly with children. Hey, pal, we don't want to be there either. Okay? Okay? There's a grandparent somewhere that really wants us somewhere. So apologies, but we got a job to do. We got to be on the airplane with the kid. I have seen adults on basically every flight I've ever been in on my life behave worse than my children, who are 4 and 16 months.
Well, this is...
And let me point this out. That's a lot of poop, way more than a 4-year-old has. That was made by an adult human being on an airplane. So I don't want to hear, literally, your shit.
That is... I feel like this is a very low bar to clear.
Yeah.
Please don't shit up and down
Don't
the
poop.
aisle.
Hey, but that's how they treat the children, like they're going to do that. My
Yeah.
children aren't doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, fair point. I feel like Smug would have pushback on all of this.
Oh, no,
but-
that's why we're tag teaming this one while
Yeah.
he's gone.
Yeah, that's right.
Well,
Children on planes are a blessing. Actually, I once got delayed so long that I ended up bumped up to first class with 2 very small children, and I sat next to Tyrese Gibson from ATL to LA, and they had sat me in a different seat and it turned out it was his seat because I had just gotten assigned mine. They didn't know where to put me, and I'm like, oh my gosh, everyone's gonna hate me already. So these 2 tiny children by myself, and Tyrese Gibson is asked to sit across the aisle from us instead of in his seat by the stewardess or by the flight attendant, and he says, that's fine, I'll sit next to these angels, they'll bless us the whole way.
Oh, look at that.
Wow.
So points for Tyrese Gibson.
What a
sweet
good
deal.
guy.
And that's why you should watch Fast and Furious.
That's right. Well, and the friendship.
She's got a very Forrest Gump thing going. I feel like she's kind of run into just about everybody in the world and has a story about
That's
them.
great.
I love it. MK, thank you so much for doing this.
Of
It's always
course.
great. You're welcome anytime.
Thank you so much.
And if Smug doesn't come back from his overseas travel,
Hey,
keep the seat
when
open.
he needs a break, I'm here.
Yeah, there you are. There you are.
It's very non-threatening.
One of the best. You got to listen to Getting Hammered. It is fantastic, and she always does good work. We love having her here, Mary Katharine Ham. Fellas, I think we did it.
I think we did it. And like we've done previously, I think we have to go to Hollywood Hen.
Another banger of an episode, folks. So until next time, minions, keep the faith, hold the line, and own the libs. Stay ruthless.